Well, YouTubers, we are back for episode 2 of Last Week in Gaming. I am your host, Joe, and with me is special guest returning, Kumar. Welcome, Kumar. Can you believe
Thank
it?
you for thank you for having me back.
We're going to try and do an episode 2 and see how that works out.
Yep, looking forward to it.
All right, well, here we are, and we are doing this. So, we have updates. The state of play. A dedicated 35 minutes to this. Final Fantasy 16. I myself haven't been a Final Fantasy fan in that I haven't played the Final Fantasy games, but I watched the state of play, and I am very, very impressed with what I'm seeing. And I am glad that PlayStation spent the dedicated 35 minutes to this game. For those that don't know, Final Fantasy 16 is a Square Enix title. It's going to release on June 22nd of this year. It's a limited time exclusive on PlayStation 5 at launch. It is expected, though, to arrive on PC at a later date. So what do we learn from the state of play? Well, at least what I learned was we play as Clive, a bodyguard to Joshua during unrest in the world of Valisthea. Joshua, he shares what is called the power of the Phoenix with him, and Valisthea is split between two continents, actually, Ash and Storm. And there was a sky-based civilization 1,500 years ago, from what I understand, and that sky civilization collapsed, and there was a great war that caused that collapse, and the remnants are scattered across Valisthea. Now, Kumar, you've played the Final Fantasy games, unlike myself. What did you take away from the state of play?
Oh, I mean, it looked very great. It reminded me of hints of all the old Final Fantasies. Some of these summons examples. That's Ifrit, one of the most famous Final Fantasy summons. But I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Now, what's interesting that I learned from the state of play is that there are approximately, of course, 15 games, give or take there, and you don't have to have played all of them to get into Final Fantasy 16. And I really appreciate that as someone that was impressed by the gameplay.
Yep, that's
And
true.
the world of Valisthea, beautiful. There is a glacial region. There are varying regions, the different parts of it. You don't feel like you are always in the same setting. It changes, as you can see here in the gameplay. Well, this right now is showing one of the, what looks like one of the bosses. But I was captivated completely by the world of Valisthea and would like to jump into it on the 22nd. I also understand there is a collector's edition if it isn't already sold out by now. I'm not sure. I will have to confirm that, but for those that collect the collector's editions, definitely check to see if there is one waiting for you. Tron Identity released last week, and we have some gameplay. This was captured on my Steam Deck and uses Proton Experimental. It is not verified to work with the Steam Deck, but by default, Proton Experimental installed, and I was able to run the game with no problems. So what we're looking at right here is the beginning of the game. The game takes place in the grid. It is a different grid than the grid we are used to in the previous movies, because in this case, the grid has been abandoned by the users. So it's just the programs that occupy this very world. We play as Query, a detective program, which is interesting because detectives ask questions, and his name is Query. And this building you see before you here is the repository. And Query has been called in because there has been an explosion, a fire that occurred at the repository. And this is a story-driven game, and you follow a actual path of a story. Now, I want to accentuate what a path is exactly. It's not quite just linear. You get to make decisions on how you interact with the characters, or should I say other programs in the game. You can choose to keep it with just business, and we are here for business. You can be friendly, or you could be even critical. And there are times in the game where you can lean towards whether one individual or program that you meet is culpable for the actual explosion that happened. And what I have enjoyed about the game is you return to the depth of the lore from the games. And I actually learned more about the Tron lore because it made me want to go and look up what I was not able to recall immediately from the movies. And now, Grish is one of the first, he actually is the first program that you meet. And he is orange instead of blue, so you're getting back into the difference in the program. So purple indicates a data pusher, for example. You remember the orange programs, it was Clue. Clue and Clue 2 were orange programs, and Clue, or I should say rather, the orange programs are considered hackers or a hacker program. Now, what you're looking at right here, this is what also distinguishes the game for what it is. It's actually puzzles. You get to solve these puzzles in the game, and they become more complex as you play the game. The puzzles emerge to solve when you're trying to defrag data disks from various characters. So as you can see here, I'm trying to understand how to optimize playing and trying to solve these puzzles. So they're not immediately easy, at least they weren't for me, and this one is slightly guided, which is great because they're not always guided. But you can see in the arch, if you will, there are arrows that give you options on what numbers that you can overlap. And what I have found is that you don't want to just choose the first one that comes up. You actually want to think about what numbers you want to cancel out. And what I found is if you cancel out the numbers that are higher, so 6, for example, and you can eliminate those numbers and then have 1s, 0s, and 2s, you can easily eliminate those and then get back to the target number. So I've laid out quite a bit. Highly recommend this game. Kumar, how do you feel about narrative-driven or story-driven games? Have you played any of these, or?
No, I've actually never played Tron before, but
okay.
I'm a big fan of story-driven games.
Okay.
I've only seen the film on this one.
Right. No, I understand, which is why I'm glad to share it, and I recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's Dead Island 2 releases tomorrow. We have some PC specs from last week. Let's look at our high here. AMD Ryzen 7 versus AMD Ryzen 9. So with the Ryzen 7, the 7700X, and the 9, the 7900X. And I actually have the the AMD Ryzen 9 5950. So I'm sitting in between high and ultra, at least for the CPU specification. And interestingly, so the ultra requires the 3090 and the high requires the 3070. I have the 3080 Ti. So this is interesting for tomorrow, whether I am going to be able to push that 60 FPS. Kumar, are you playing this game?
I've been waiting for this game since 2013.
2013. I actually found out about it in 2014, and what a journey this game has taken. And it was initially announced, not rumor, but initially announced in 2014. And Jaeger Development initially started working on it. And Jaeger Development, they also developed the game Spec Ops: The Line. Have you played that one, Kumar? Spec Ops: The Line?
No, I haven't played that one.
Oh, that is a great game. That came out quite a long time ago. And they were originally hired to develop the game, but they were removed by Deep Silver in 2015, and they were replaced by Sumo Digital the following year. But then let's see what happened here. In 2019, Sumo Digital no longer on the project, and Dambuster Studio, they picked it up. So that is sort of a general explanation for why this game took as long as it did. Now, next week, for episode 3. We will have some gameplay on this. We just have the cinematic trailer playing up here in the upper right-hand corner. And
Looks like a very beautiful game.
It's, yeah, the colors stand out, absolutely. And the game has I want to call it a no, not a graphics technology. Anyways, it is a feature within a graphics engine, perhaps. This is where my expertise may be limited, but there is a system in place to where when you hit the zombies in certain areas, they show the damage. It's not generic. It's not, well, you hit a zombie, it doesn't matter where you hit the zombie, the wound or the impact is going to look the same. There's going to be a variety and uniqueness depending on where you decide to slash the zombie, along with all the other awesome weapons that you can choose from, or selection of weapons. So that's going to be interesting for players to be able to test out, okay, well, how do I want to kill this zombie and where do I want to hit this zombie? Because it's going to be visually stunning and exciting to do that in the game. So yes, this releases tomorrow. And our next update is on Game Pass. This is a short update. I saw that Game Pass is now available in 40 countries. So they have been taking the effort to get more people engaged into Xbox Game Pass. And Kumar, I remember I was on the fence about jumping into Game Pass, and you finally got me into it.
Oh, I'm sure you love it.
Yeah, well, I do. And there are more games with the day one game releases. Two that come to mind are Redfall and Starfield. And we actually have a Redfall update that we're going to get to in a moment. But how do you feel, Kumar, about the direction Game Pass is in? Are they coming out with enough games? Are they keeping the customers engaged? There are, of course, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think they are. I mean, there's a whole bunch of old classics you can always try out when in between new games. So
yeah, that is true.
It can always keep you engaged with their library.
Right. Well, I'm very hopeful for Redfall to be great and for Starfield to be great. Skyrim in space for Starfield.
Man, I can't wait for Starfield.
So, and that's a day one Game Pass title, complimentary with the subscription. Moving on to our next update, Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun. This releases May 23rd on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Made by Focus Entertainment, who may sound familiar. They made A Plague's Tale, Space Marine, Atlas Fallen, or Atlas Fallen will... Go ahead.
Oh, I'm getting original Doom vibes while watching this video.
Yeah, it's same. The older Doom games, definitely getting that vibe as well. It's a retro shooter, stylish visuals, as you can tell, but it takes you back. It feels like you're going back in
I want to try it out.
time. And it's considered a modern first-person shooter. The weapons you are seeing in this, the grave cannon, the bolt gun, the chainsword, I don't know if those are the only three, honestly. But those are the ones that you get to see in the trailer. Yeah, looks really fun. I pre-ordered it. I want to try it out on the Steam Deck, see if I can get it to play, maybe with Proton Experimental or the Proton update that's out, whether it's version 8 or another one. We will see. So in a future episode, we will have some gameplay on this, whether it's on the Steam Deck or something else. So stay tuned. We will have more on that in the coming time. Anything else on this one, Kumar?
Oh no, I'm just enjoying the gameplay.
All right. Yeah, this is the trailer here that we are showing. All right. Next update. GeForce Now. There are games you can play that were announced for GFN Thursday last week. You have Mordhau, Mordhau. I'm going to look in the comments for people to help me pronounce that. Hopefully I did not butcher that. That is on the Epic Game Store that you can get. So you connect that with your account, and you get to play through the clouds. De-Exit, Eternal Matters. That is a new release on Steam as of April 14th, that is. Immortals, if I'm, again, pronouncing that right, but butchering it probably. That was available on April 13th. Next one is 11-11, Memories Retold. That's available on Steam. Canverse, with verse in all capitals, available on Steam. Get Even, available on Steam. These you can play in the cloud that I'm reading off. Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2. You can get those off of Steam, connect your account, and play those in the cloud. The 4070 Founders Edition released last week. And this is an interesting one, at least to me. It's smaller than the 3080. The question is it the card for you? And I read a PC gaming article, if you want to call it that, but they have some test results from using the 4070. But before I get into that, let's talk about the 4070 for a moment. If you want to add it to your cart, I found that it's $599 from Nvidia's store website. It has 588 Nvidia CUDA cores. Boost clock is 2.48 gigahertz. You have 12 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory compared to GDDR6. This is the 6X. 3rd gen ray tracing. 4th gen tensor cores. Now the tensor cores compared to the CUDA cores, the tensor cores are going to be different. This is the AI network that Nvidia has developed and talks about for powering technologies like DLSS. The 4070 Founders Edition uses the Ada Lovelace Nvidia technology, and Lovelace is used across the 40 series or 4000 series GeForce RTX cards. And back to what PC Gaming said. What is the verdict? Well, it plays as a great card for 2K or 1440p. Now, there are more than the ones that I'm showing here. I chose to show Cyberpunk 2077 and Metro Exodus. Not that those two games are more important than any other game, but they stood out to me, and I said, all right, these are two of my favorite games. Let me share them with all the viewers at home. All right, 4070 Founders Edition. Looks like average FPS is 63, and with the 3080 compared, it's 61. Now, this is at 1080p we are looking at, and you have your RX cards near the bottom, 45 for the 6950, 58. So other than the 4070 Ti at 81, it looks like it is one of the higher numbers for the average FPS. But that's with Cyberpunk 2077. And again, this is in high definition. Looking at Cyberpunk 2077 in 1440p. Our numbers change here. 4070 Founders Edition at 39 compared to the others here. The 4070 Ti stands out at 50. The 3080, RTX 3080 at 37. And then the RX cards, they perform, well, the 7900 at 41. So slightly higher than the Founders Edition. All right, looking at Cyberpunk 2077 in 4K. So here you get 17. Now, I should have began with this before I got into the numbers. The tests are without any type of frame rate boost or DLSS technology. And they have applied ray tracing. To what degree the ray tracing is applied, it's not specified, but they do engage in the ray tracing for these tests that we are seeing here. So next, looking at Metro Exodus Enhanced at 1080p. Here are our numbers here. 4070 Founders Edition at 107 compared to the 3080 at 108. And then, of course, the RX 6950 and 7900, they are higher than that. I do notice that. And looking at Metro Exodus at 1440p, getting 87 for the 4070 Founders Edition. And then here are the 4K results. So 4070 Founders Edition getting average of 50 FPS there. Kumar, what do you think? Are you sold on the 4070?
To be honest, no.
No. Okay. I have a 3080 Ti. I'm sticking with 3080
For the price
Ti
point,
right now.
it's a mid-scale card.
Yeah. Yeah. So 4070 Ti, 4090, depending on the budget, or depending on if you are an Nvidia fan. But that is the choice for you to decide. Now, that is what I have here on the 4070 Founders Edition. Next update. Again. The next update. Battlefield 2042. Patch 4.1.1. What does it give us? Well, while I tell you that, I thought I would share some gameplay. Some modest gameplay that I recorded. So, Battlefield 2042 that released in 2021. It released across PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and is available on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. What is this update with the patch? All chat functionality. What is that? That means the two teams, opposing team and your team, can talk to each other. Reminds me of Call of Duty a little bit. And there are some quality of life improvements and also general improvements. Now, if you're concerned about the all chat functionality and playing, don't worry. It's turned off by default. But you can go into the settings and enable that if you... And I really like how the patch notes detail this. You can once again congratulate the other team for dancing on top of your downed body. That's awesome. I like reading that. I read patch notes, and sometimes they're just bland, but that's not bland. That's funny. That's just plain funny. Kumar, does this make you want to get back into Battlefield? Because I've been trying to convince you.
I am gonna get back into it one day, I promise.
One day. All right. I'm going to keep trying. Haven't given up yet. All right. Next update. All right. Next update. Immortals of Aveum. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Hopefully I am. This one caught me by surprise. I actually thought when I first saw this, when I saw the thumbnail for the trailer, I went, "Oh, is that another one of those superhero movies?" But I was completely fooled. It is not. Developed by Ascendant Studios in conjunction with EA Originals, and I actually found out that was announced. The partnership for at least a game came out late 2022 on that, the announcement for that. This game, Immortals of Aveum, it launches July 20th this year. It's described by Push Square, that's the source at least that I initially found this from, and this is great. Call of Duty in a magical world. Kumar, have you ever imagined Call of Duty in a magical world?
No.
Well,
nope. Just Destiny comes to mind.
Yeah. Destiny, right? Is Destiny Call of Duty in a magical world though? I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. I don't think so. But this is apparently, according to Push Square. All right, you play as Jack, a battle mage, recruited to a special forces division named. Bet you can't guess. What is it named, Kumar? This battle mage. This special forces division. What is it called?
I have no idea.
Immortals! Name of the title. Immortals. You have the unique ability to command different types of magic. And looking at the gameplay here, it reminds me of Forspoken a little bit, which I haven't finished, like many of my other games that I need to go back and finish. But it does. Now, I'm not saying the combat system works exactly the same, I am saying that it reminds me of Forspoken. So, what's going on here? There's an ongoing conflict between factions called the Ever War that is occurring. Now, I don't know how many people have realized this, but this stood out to me. This was special. Gina Torres is the voice actor for General Kirkin, the leader of the Immortals, a group comprising the most powerful battle mages, which makes sense to be the Immortals. Gina Torres, you probably remember her, if it is familiar to you, the name, from Firefly, Suits. She was the original voice actor in Ikora Rey in the Destiny franchise, and even though the new actor does a great job, I will say I do miss Gina Torres as the original voice actor. So when I heard her voice in this trailer, I immediately got nostalgic vibes and made me want to jump into this to remember Ikora's old voice, even though the voices are very similar. Kumar, what do you think about this one?
Looks, I want to give it a try.
Yeah. I am thinking the same. We may have some gameplay on it with one of our episodes. Probably will, knowing me, because I like to pick up games and play them and not finish them and then go back months later and try to finish them. And then go to the next game. Yeah, Skyrim. Exactly. Still haven't finished that. All right. That is our update for Immortals of Aveum. All right, next update. Diablo IV. We had an article, or rather an announcement from Blizzard. I have it right here. I actually printed out to read it because there's quite a bit of information in here. Diablo IV Open Beta Retrospective. Transforming feedback into change. There's quite a bit in here, as I mentioned. Actually, Kumar, I'm going to start this over. I don't like how I'm doing on this one. All right. Next update. Diablo IV. There was an update. Oh, dang on it. Keep saying the word update. Give them, just take a second. All right. Next update. Diablo IV. Blizzard made an announcement in the form of a article here, which I have. I actually printed this out, believe it or not. Diablo IV Open Beta Retrospective, Transforming Feedback into Change. What is this about? It's about what Blizzard is going to do in making changes for the game release, early release June 2nd. The formal release, if you will, June 6th. What they learned from the beta, feedback that they received. There's much here. There's much to look at. One that stands out, I will not go through all of this. There's some great content out there for anyone that wants to dive deeper into this, but let me at least give you some of the highlights. They are going to optimize dungeon zones to minimize backtracking. Now, I did play both betas last month, and I did realize that I was doing quite a bit of backtracking because I was not able to find all the areas, and of course because I am new to those areas, and then you have to find these certain items and put them somewhere so that you can unlock the main gate to get to the boss. So that could just be my familiarity there, or lack of rather, but I am liking that they are going to optimize the dungeon zones to prevent that. And they list here in a list of dungeons in the Fractured Peak zones, which are going to receive what they call layout updates. Next, for dungeon gameplay, there is a momentum bonus. 25% to you and allies. So what does that mean with a momentum bonus? Well, as I was mentioning earlier, you have to move certain items in the game to unlock that main gate, and I'm being really general here, but you are vulnerable to attack when you do that. So to be able to move faster, 25%, that definitely helps, I think. There are structured objectives. Dungeons have additional structured objectives. Dungeons have additional combat mechanics to overcome. So that adds another element to the dungeons if they weren't difficult already for you. And general effects like stun and freeze can be applied to elite monsters twice as long before they become unstoppable. There are some changes to the classes. So your barbarian, your druid, your necromancer, the others. And I won't go through all of these, but these stood out to me. For the barbarian, the double swing skill enhancement refunds its full fury cost when used on stunned or knocked down enemies. For the druid, one that stood out, all ultimate skills have had their cooldowns reduced. Okay. For the necromancer, I actually played as the necromancer and the sorcerer when I played, and I found this interesting with the necromancer having played it. Not that the other classes aren't interesting. For the necromancer, summon minions will die more often, requiring players to utilize corpses more often. Yeah, those skeletons did last quite a bit, and I enjoy their company, honestly. So it saddens me that they're not going to be there as long. But there are quite an abundance of corpses when you go in to tackle enemies, so summoning them should be approachable. But there is a twist, if you will, to this. The corpse explosion skill is reduced. The damage of it specifically is reduced. I had so much fun exploding corpses. So that is going to be reduced. Let's look at the rogue, one that stood out to me. Multiple passive skills have had their bonuses increased. That is something to look forward to. The sorcerer, one that stood out to me. Charge bolts damage was increased, and the mana cost to cast has decreased. I used the bolt damage quite a bit when I played. So that's nice to know. So I'm on the fence about the necromancer and the sorcerer, honestly, but that's just me. There are many other subject matter experts. I'm still getting familiar with Diablo. Really excited for the release on that. Kumar, are you getting into Diablo? What do you think? You didn't get into the betas.
To be honest, no, not Diablo. I've never tried it. Only Blizzard game I play is World of Warcraft.
All right. Well, another Blizzard title there. Our next update, Redfall. This was a surprise to me. Maybe not others. You can let us know in the comments. Redfall will only run at 30 FPS. Kumar, 30 FPS. What do we make of this, man?
They're gonna have to put some DLSS or something in there.
So to clarify, the quality mode, as is shown here, is the only day one option. Performance mode, which will get you above 30. To what frame rate, I don't know, at least on what I've read. That's going to come later at a unspecified time. Now, this is a first-person shooter developed by Arcane Studios. It has a May 2nd release date, and we're looking at PureBox as the source. And it is going to play at 4K on the Series X and 1440p on the Series S, but locked into quality mode for that 30 FPS. And to conclude, we have our special guest topic. We are going to continue doing these special guest topics. And this one, like last week, games in movies. We have an update on a Dead Space movie that is going to be developed. Now, this is not the only Dead Space movie that will be created. Two movies that come to mind to me are Dead Space Downfall, which precedes the first Dead Space game, and that was released, the movie, in 2008, and then Dead Space Aftermath, following events in the first Dead Space, and that released in 2011. So, this movie, well, and this is according to Giant Freaking Robot, that is the source that I read this in. James Wan has been selected to direct the Dead Space movie. That name may be familiar to some. He brought us Malignant and Aquaman, from what I understand. Now, there was news, if it wasn't last month, it was the month before, I think, or rather early in the year. Seems like this year is going by so quickly. John Carpenter was originally suspected to be the one to direct based off of an announcement, or rather an announcement or some words that he said extending back to 2013. Kumar, are you interested in this?
Oh, I'm very interested in this movie.
I really enjoyed the remaster game. It got me into the Dead Space games. I will admit. So this is going to be a great one. Well, that is our show tonight for episode 2. Thank you for staying with us. Hope you enjoyed it. And thank you to all the support for us starting this out. We are new to this, so bear with us as we get our bearings. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. Could we have covered more? Could we have done away with less? Kumar, any final thoughts on this?
No, thank you for everybody tuning in tonight.
Awesome. All right, we will see everyone next week. This has been Last Week in Gaming.